Hey everyone, my name is therosemariesmith, and last week I shared my first YouTube video. It's a little daunting, but I just took a quick moment to introduce myself and talk at a very high level some of the real estate transactions that I've already done because I'm just documenting my journey as I learn this process. Quick recap, towards the second half of the video, I started to highlight I've already done a long-term rental. I already have 2 co-living Airbnb properties, seller finance assignments, lease options. But I did receive a question that kind of made me want to pivot directions this week. And there's a question that was received from my friend Will. He asked what an option fee was. Today I wanted to elaborate on the answer that I've already given him. But the bottom line is that an option fee is simply a non-refundable deposit to a lease option transaction. A lease option is also commonly known as a rent-to-own. I think the easiest way to digest this would be for me to draw out an example scenario comparing a traditional rental to a rent-to-own property. I think military, we fall hostage to becoming accidental landlords more than the average person, just because we have no equity in a house, and then sometimes we feel trapped with a property. I hope that this will give you another tool to put in your tool bag, but at the end of the day, lease options don't just work for low equity. You could structure a lease option if you have medium equity, $200,000 in equity, it doesn't matter. So with that being said, I guess we'll just jump straight into it. I should probably give one final disclaimer that there will be math involved. I don't like doing public math. I'm only half Asian and I didn't inherit the smart gene, so if you see a lot of video edits, you know what happened. But we're going to get through this together. Okay, so let's jump straight into our scenario. So let's say that Lieutenant Dan purchased his first house. It was $300,000. And of course, he went through a bank, so there's some additional financing charges. Final mortgage is closer to $315,000. And then the day of move-in, let's say he paid $12,000 on closing costs. We do have some inaccuracies in our story already. Everyone knows that Lieutenant Dan from Forrest Gump did not have legs. So now let's say that he lives at this house for a little while, and then 2 years go by, and he receives orders to relocate. So what does he do? He reaches out to a real estate agent who has legs, and he asks them, hey, could you help me sell my property? They now do some research to see what this home is worth, and maybe they come back and they say, hey, it's gone up in value a little bit, but it's actually worth $312,000 right now. He kind of realizes that things are looking a little tight, but he may not realize they're upside down yet. His original mortgage was only $315,000, and he's being told this is how much he's likely to sell his house for. If you've never looked at an amortization table, I'm about to make you throw up. This is what an amortization table looks like. This is an example one for a typical 30-year mortgage, $315,000 at 6%. And we see in the beginning, your interest is always like disproportionately high to your principal. $1,800 payment that he's making, only $300 is actually going towards principal. And this isn't the entire monthly payment. At the end of the day, I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here. But you have principal and interest, and you have taxes and insurance. This is only the principal and interest number. The taxes and insurance, these could actually fluctuate a little bit year by year. But just looking at principal and interest, after 12 payments of $1,800, we see his mortgage balance is still $311,000. After 2 years, we see the mortgage payment or the balance is still at $307,000, and we're still only paying down $350 a month. So over time, more is going towards principal and less is going to interest, but it's not until we get very, very late in the game, at month 222, whenever we see a comparable match between the interest and principal.
whenever we actually see more money going towards principal than we see towards interest. So back to our scenario here. Let's say 2 years go by and he's trying to sell his house. Agent tells him it's worth $312,000. Actually, let's be nice. It's worth more than that, Lieutenant Dan. It's worth $320,000. It's worth $320,000. He's only paid this mortgage down a little bit within the last 2 years. His outstanding mortgage is still around $306,000. But these agents, they don't work for free, and they typically work in pairs. These two agents with legs, one is the listing agent and one is the buyer's agent. Between these two, they collect a 5% commission. So at the end of the day, maybe after all your closing costs, let's just go ahead and say 6%. If this house would have sold a top dollar at $320,000, 6% of that is about $19,000. 320 minus 19 equals 301. But he actually owes 306 still. Lieutenant Dan would have had to bring $5,000 to the table just to close and give away his house. So what does he do? He does what most military people end up doing. We end up becoming accidental landlords. So we do a traditional rental. And here's how that looks. Let's say the final mortgage payment, including principal and interest, I don't know, I like easy math. Let's just say it's $2,700 a month. He finds these amazing tenants that he's able to put in the property, and they give him an upfront security deposit of $2,700. We all know these security deposits, they are used in the event of damage, but if they took care of the house, then they get that money back at the end of the year or the end of their lease. I'm going to mark it out as if they took care of the property. Right now, he has this mortgage of $2,700. He wants to make a little bit of money on it, so he charges market rents, and he charges $3,100 per month, which gives him $400 worth of cash flow. But because he's going across the country, he now decides that he needs to hire a property manager, and that property manager is going to take about 10% of your rent. So they're going to take $300. So now he's only going to walk away with $100 of cash flow each month. Rent, mortgage. Now, if something breaks in the house, he's got to pay for all the maintenance. It's almost inevitable as soon as you leave a house or you buy a house that you're going to end up with a large maintenance bill. My first house, I actually lived in this house for 2 years before I bought it, and then the HVAC system broke like a month after closing. He doesn't really have a whole lot of cash flow to work with. This is just something to keep in mind, that whenever something breaks, you will be dipping into your savings account. But over time, there are some positives to rentals. I'm not knocking them. I have one myself. Every month that they rent, they are paying down the principal. And more than likely, your house is going up in value. Profit margin, it's getting bigger and bigger over time, unless the market takes a dip. When it's all said and done, whenever you guys are ready to sell this house, tenants have lived there for 3 years. They decide it's time to move out. Lieutenant Dan is back to where he was before, and he has to go find a real estate agent. And they have to help him sell his house. So you need to go ahead and account for the 5% commissions and a little bit for closing costs. So that's rentals in a nutshell. It's not super profitable unless you own the house for a while, and then you have a bigger buffer for cash flow. But you are holding on to an asset that has the potential to appreciate over time. Now we're going to jump into lease options. So in this example, Lieutenant Dan is a little bit more savvy. He has his house here, and he knows that he wants his VA entitlements back, but he doesn't need them for a few years. This is a typical lease with an additional piece of paper that says they have the rights to purchase the property within a given time period. So let's say all of the terms are stated up front, that this house is going to sell for $300,000. The market's doing great. The house is going to be worth, $360,000 at 3 years. They just put a big attraction nearby. So his house is going to be worth $360,000. He's going to sell it at $350,000 as long as they purchase it within a 3-year period. Go back to our scenario. On day one, whenever the new tenants move in, they are going to pay what is called an option fee. They're not truly tenants like your traditional rental. They are tenant buyers. Tenant buyers pay more money up front. Let's say you make $9,000. Whether they stay or go, that is your money to keep. Instant revenue right there. You still have your mortgage, but you also have the opportunity to maybe charge a little bit more for rent. Instead of charging $3,100, you're going to charge, say, $3,500. And you could get away with this in a lease option because you could tell them the $500, that's going to be a credit towards your final principal whenever you decide to purchase the house. So they get the satisfaction of knowing they are paying down their final purchase. Property management. This is a cost that I'm pretty comfortable leaving out for a lease option because I got tenant buyers who want to take care of this property. You may want to have a property manager for the first year, but this is very discretionary to you. One of my favorites is the maintenance piece. Everything in this lease is negotiable. So you could put in this lease that the tenant buyer is responsible for all repairs. So you now have no maintenance charges. Or you could put terms in there that say the tenant buyers are responsible for all maintenance less than $2,000. I love adding verbiage to my lease options that give the tenant buyer the opportunity to update and upgrade the house as they live in it, as long as they get written approval from the landlord. In that case, if they come into this house and they decide they want to update the bathrooms, they want to update the kitchen, and that house is now worth more money, that's a win for everyone. So we have the maintenance piece. The last perk, well, there's more perks, but an added one is whenever it goes time to sell, you don't actually need a real estate agent because you already know who is going to buy your house. So we're able to save money in 3 different locations. So at the end of the 3-year period, they've actually paid down this mortgage a little bit more. Let's say the mortgage is now closer to $300,000. It's selling for $350,000. So you have now walked away with $50,000 in profit, minus a little bit in closing costs because you don't have agent commissions. It's kind of a win-win even if they don't close on this house because now I have opportunity. They may come back and say, we didn't take buying seriously. We love this house. We've already put some work into it, but we just need more time. All that does is that restarts the cycle. You tell them, okay, we'll sign another 3-year lease option. That'll be another $9,000. And you set the terms in that lease. Your mortgage is still $2,700. The market's actually gone up a little bit, so I'm going to charge you $3,800 per month. No property management, no maintenance coming out of your pocket. Your cash flow has increased as well. You guys see that? And you could just keep rinsing and repeating this cycle. Again, you're more than likely going to get better tenants because these are tenant buyers who want to become eventual homeowners. They have a little bit more skin in the game than a standard security deposit. And your tenant buyers, they're typically people who they need time. Their credit probably took a big dip, whether they got divorced or they have a lot of medical bills. I still always run my background checks. I'd still always pull credit reports because I'm looking for those red flags ahead of time. Just because someone has the $8,000 on day one doesn't mean that they're necessarily a good candidate. As you look through these credit reports, I'm looking for high credit card utilization. I'm looking for defaults on things. But that is lease option in a nutshell. You're able to just generate more profit on day one, every month that a payment is being made, and at the time of sale.
So with that being said, I hope you guys had some good takeaways from this. I hope you have just one more tool in your tool bag. I just think it's important that everyone knows it's ridiculous if you have to pay money to give away your house, or if you feel trapped that you must become a landlord for an extended period of time just so you don't lose money. If it doesn't match your long-term goals of building out a portfolio, then you don't need to do it if that's not what interests you. I think this is where creative finance shines. it could find the workarounds that a lot of buyers and sellers need that a traditional sell can't meet sometimes. And there's a lot of strategies out there. We'll get to them down the road, but there's sub 2, seller finance, various assignment types that we could do. So I'll end with this. If you have a property and you're curious whether it would be a good fit for a lease option or you need to entertain another strategy, just send me an email. We could talk about it, and we could talk about what your next steps are and what you should consider before making a decision. And the same thing is true if you're on the opposite side of the boat, not a seller, but a buyer. Just shoot me an email saying that you think you'd be a good candidate for a lease option. And then what city and state are you looking for? Right now, I'm in the DMV physically, but I could partner with anyone nationwide and we could go find the home and stays within your budget. So, with that said, I'll see you guys next week. I hope you have a great weekend, and I look forward to speaking with you soon.